Welcome back. Today we are going to be making my family's favorite sourdough discard muffins. They're incredibly simple to make and can be customized in so many ways. I like to make a double batch and throw the extras in the freezer for a quick and easy breakfast or snack on busy days. I'll also be making overnight sourdough blueberry muffins that are started the night before for added health benefits from the long ferment and are so delicious. So let's dive in and get started. For this recipe, you will need 1.5 cups all-purpose flour, 2/3 cup sugar, 1 tablespoon baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, which is optional, 1 large egg, 1/3 cup of whole milk or non-dairy, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1/2 cup of liquid fat, and 1/2 cup of sourdough discard. The full recipe will be in the description, but the first step is to preheat your oven to 425 degrees, line a muffin tin with muffin liners or spray with nonstick spray. Then in a large mixing bowl, whisk together the all-purpose flour, granulated sugar, baking powder, salt, and cinnamon if using. I'm making a double batch, but choosing to use half of the amount of sugar because I will be adding chocolate chips. I have mentioned this in other videos, but I just love using a scale for my measurements. The recipe will be listed in measurements as well as grams, but I just find it so much easier to weigh your ingredients. It's much faster, creates less mess, and it's more accurate. So I just love using a scale for my ingredients. The next step is to mix the wet ingredients. So in a separate bowl, whisk together the egg, milk, vanilla, oil, and sourdough discard until well combined. It's very important to stir down your sourdough discard to remove any bubbles, especially when you're weighing, I guess even if you're using measurements, because you won't get an accurate amount of sourdough discard. In this recipe, the milk and the liquid fat, which I'm using avocado oil, are measured in milliliters if you are using a scale. So it's also very important that you switch from grams to milliliters and pay attention to that when you are using a scale, or you won't get accurate measurements. Sometimes I just use a 1/2 cup or a 1/3 cup measurement on these ingredients. Ideally, you want to use room temperature eggs so that it mixes better with the wet ingredients. If you don't have farm fresh eggs that you can keep out on your counter, you can just take your eggs out of the fridge an hour or so before you plan to bake. The next step is to pour the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients and stir with a spoon or spatula until just combined. The batter will be lumpy, and with muffins, it is important not to overmix or they will become tough. These muffins are very good plain, just the way they are. But at this point, you can fold in blueberries, cranberries, cinnamon raisin, orange zest and cranberries, or even cheddar and bacon for a savory muffin. I'm going to be adding chocolate chips. It's what my kids love the best, so I'm going to make half of them chocolate chip and leave half of them plain. This recipe makes about 10 muffins, but since I've doubled the recipe, I'm going to be using 2 trays today. You'll want to fill your muffin tins about 3/4 of the way full. These muffins bake at 425 degrees for the first 10 minutes, and then you'll want to reduce the temperature to 350 for another 5 to 7 minutes. Last night I mixed the ingredients for my favorite overnight sourdough blueberry muffins, and that was 50 grams of sourdough starter, 250 grams of all-purpose flour, and 200 grams of milk. In the morning, you add 2 eggs, 60 grams of melted butter, 5 grams of vanilla extract, 50 grams of brown sugar, 50 grams of white sugar, 9 grams of baking powder, and 4 grams of salt. You'll also fold in 200 grams of blueberries. You can reduce the sugar, but the sugar gives it a nice crispy edge. The overnight ferment increases the benefits of the sourdough, including breaking down the carbohydrates, making them much easier to digest. Pour the wet ingredients into the fermented milk and flour. These two batters can be very difficult to combine. It may seem like they won't come together, but they will. It just takes a little bit of stirring and work. Once the batter is fully combined, you can stir in your blueberries. I'm using frozen blueberries, but fresh blueberries or frozen blueberries both work well. Next, you spoon your batter into your muffin tin. And for these, I always choose not to use muffin liners. because the extra sugar gives it a nice crispy edge without the muffin liners. Pop them into the oven at 350 degrees for about 20 minutes until the tops are golden brown. I hope that you enjoy these muffins as much as we do. Thanks for watching.